Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody, depending on where you are in the world. I sure hope it's one of those times, otherwise, I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, let's get into this video. So, for some of you guys that know me, you might know that I am a jack of a lot of trades. For those of you guys that don't know me, I'm a jack of a lot of trades. I throw myself into pretty much anything and everything that I can. In this video, you're gonna see my attempt at making a drop leg Kydex holster for my airsoft Glock replica. I'm gonna take you through everything. I'm gonna take you through how I made the press and how I made the holster. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let's see how I did it. I've got some fun intros in the works. In the meantime, let's get right into this video. The first step to making this holster was obviously to make a press in which to mold the actual holster. I started this process by cutting out two 1 foot by 1 foot panels out of this large plywood sheet that I had. These would serve as the top and bottom foundation of the actual press. The next step was to create the inside of the mold. I wanted the mold to create a natural curve in the Kydex during the molding process. So, in order to do this, I had to cut some 2x4s in half. So, I enlisted the help of my dad, who actually knows what he's doing, to help me out with this process. Between the last clips and now, while I was cutting the other 2x4 lengths, I also had to cut a new base plate. This new base plate extends about 8 inches back further. That allows me to put a wall on the back to hinge the top of the press on. Now, it's time to measure all of the screw holes and fix the 2x4s to the base and top plates. Unfortunately, I didn't record past this point. However, I did take some reference photos to show you what the press looked like after completion. Now, to move on to the actual holster. The first step to making the holster was to cut out the squares that I would use to actually mold the holster. I don't remember the exact dimensions, but I want to say that I did 8 by 10 inches, which leaves more than enough wiggle room to mess up the outsides and trim off the excess. And a quick lunch break. Once we got those squares cut out, then it was time to tape off the gun so that we could start the molding process. Because my pistol has a light on it, I needed to make sure that I created a light channel for the holster. I'm doing that by taking a large wooden dowel and cutting it in half to cover up the trigger guard. Once I had the trigger guard covered up, I then had to give the slide a little bit of wiggle room in the holster. I did this by taping spacers to the outside of the slide. I made these spacers by cutting up the little divider walls that come in part organizer bins. The reason that you add these on is so that when you're doing the final touches and putting the two halves of the holster together in the end, the holster doesn't become too tight. Once you've completed this process, you then want to add a dowel on top to give room for the sights. Then, finish taping up the rest of the gun so that the heat from the Kydex doesn't damage it at all. Now, it's time to grab my materials, head inside, and preheat the oven so that we can start baking this Kydex. Now that we've heated up the Kydex, it's time to put it and the pistol in the press. Because I'm a left-handed shooter, I needed to place the pistol with the pistol handle facing towards the left. Once you have them layered like so, you can then put the foam on top and begin the molding process. Make sure to use clamps on the front to make sure that the pressure stays consistent the whole time during the molding process. Now, we add a couple extra clamps for security, and then we wait. Make sure that you give the Kydex enough time to effectively cool down. Once it's done that, you can then take the mold out. This one came out with really nice texture. Now it's time to set up my measuring tools and trim the excess from the sides. Not shown on video is me actually trimming the sides as well as trimming part of the top to make sure that the pistol of the handle can be seen. Also not shown in the video is me drilling the holes for the eyelets that hold the holster together. Now we have to set the eyelets. Then, after a couple more hours of unrecorded work of buffing and sanding down the edges, we smoothed it out and we made the finished product. Here are some photos.